Okay, so as I kind of mentioned, this is a kind of brief presentation just to go through the latest Climate Action Fund signpost on partnership working. I'm Shona Lafferty, part of the support and learning team and working on the CAF project. So here we're going to just go through what is partnership working, and just to kind of briefly outline the kind of format of the presentation. We'll go through and explore a little bit around what that means and discuss the sphere of influence and control. I'll then introduce the case study organisations, the 3 case studies that we worked with, to kind of unpack their purpose, who they are, what they deliver and how they do that. Just to pull out then the key learning and successes that we've learned through those case study organisations. So first, what is partnership working? So some problems are just too complex for one organisation to tackle on their own. So partnership really describes a form of collaborative working, where a group of organisations bring together individual strengths and competencies and resources to work together towards a common goal. So we purposely kind of set out to work in collaboration and with equal participation, to get all those individual voices, and then to integrate what we have in terms of those resources and competencies and what we deliver. So it's really kind of harnessing the shared interest and also retaining the partners. Each partner's individual identity is really important to create that shared sense of ownership, accountability, and co-evolution towards that common goal. So in the context of climate action, partnerships can really enable that joined up approach to addressing what are really, really complex challenges. So returning to that key sentence, just thinking about those problems that are too big and complex to tackle on your own. So although all these individual characteristics are important that we've just outlined, the key to success of partnership is the approach. So within the signpost resource, we kind of talk about Stephen Covey's model as the sphere of influence and control. So working in climate action is complex, it's multifaceted, and it requires a clear focus on what can be influenced to avoid becoming really overwhelmed, specifically relating to this topic. So by doing so, we're kind of only really concentrating on the issues of concern. So what are those issues of concern? So those are things that tend to happen to us. So whatever's happening, in the kind of economy or politics and the news, and all those things that are huge contested issues that are really driving that area of concern. And then what is influence? So these are things that we do have some degree of control over. So what information we access and who we interact with and how we do that. So the kind of premise of the model is that you can only really react to an area of concern, to these things that happen to us. But if we focus on the area of influence, we can learn to adapt and act that really enables us to cope with those areas of concern far better. So the model really teaches us that the more time that we spend on the area of concern or influence, the more that area will grow. So when each partner adapts and acts within that sphere of control, the kind of operational aspects of the project can be better managed, it can be more efficient, and it can enable the kind of partnership to look ahead and to assess those upcoming risks and kind of really develop that relationship within the partnership. So now just to introduce the case studies. We spoke to Food and Climate Action Glasgow, Climate Action Fife, and Green and Healthy Frome. So these are all the projects within Climate Action Fund are partnerships, but we kind of try to choose a representative sample of those projects. And I really want to draw on the kind of unique properties of each of these projects to really demonstrate their approach to nurturing those partnerships that they work in. So I first wanted to just highlight this because this wasn't included in the signpost, but I did make a point of kind of asking each person that I spoke to what partnership means to them. And I think that's a really kind of powerful way of articulating what it is that they do at the kind of heart and the core of how they approach partnerships. So being in it together and moving forward together and working equally towards a shared goal, and then being more than our separate organisations and connecting to each other and the community and understanding those new perspectives. And also it kind of generates a bit more energy and ambition within the group itself. So first to kind of focus on food and climate action. So their kind of purpose being kind of working alongside local communities to co-create a more resilient food system that is fairer and kinder to people and the planet. So they work with a number of different partners, and each of these partners has a community, what they call a community activator. So that's the kind of thread that feeds back in to the lead partner in this partnership as well. And it means that they respond to what is its needs based. So whatever's happening in the community, Glasgow's a huge and sprawling city with really diverse groups within it. So making sure that what they deliver is community led and responds to those needs, and also retains the autonomy within each individual partner as well. And how do they do this? They've got an agreed structure within the partnership. The lead partner look to kind of really utilise that to feedback and continuously build on those relationships and those learnings within the partnership itself by carrying out regular check-ins. So I've just included in here a screenshot of just a visual representation of what they do. So this is available on their website, and it really kind of shows how they collate all the information and how it's accessible, and they demonstrate what they're doing through this. So it's increasing urban agriculture within the city, engaging and empowering people through education, establishing those community-led green assemblies, supporting any climate action, and learning. They've got an online food hub as well. So this connects to each other, but also that wider kind of climate action message that feeds into, the Glasgow City Food Plan fundamentally. The second case study that we spoke to was Climate Action Fife. So they are bringing together, a little typo there for you, bringing together individuals and communities, local government and businesses to tackle the climate emergency and make Fife greener and fairer. So this is quite a large partnership. There's 12 partners. So Greener Kirkcaldy lead it. You've got the council and the local college working as well in transition, which is part of the University of St Andrews, and then a number of community groups that are kind of focused on environmental youth or food topics. So they work kind of locally to combat the climate emergency. They're looking to tackle food poverty and food insecurity and bring people together. Is kind of at the core of what they do. So they deliver a range of projects and events and training as well to meet the needs of those local people. So they're adding new strands as the partnership grows, and this shows that they've got 12 partners already, and they're always looking outwards, always looking to see who else they can involve. They do this by identifying those gaps that are within because Fife is obviously quite a large county with many different kind of towns within it and villages as well. So they're always continuously kind of reflecting on what's maybe needed and what they're maybe missing, and then accessing that audience through these groups. So these strands kind of relate to specific events or topics that they look to explore together. And they really they really kind of work to kind of celebrate their individual and collective values. So learning to really articulate what it is that they do and why it's important. They make sure that what they deliver is responsive and agile. So making sure that you're flexible, you know, working with someone like a council compared to a small community group. Obviously, they've got very different resources, very different needs and capacities and ways of working as well. So it's important as the lead partner to be responsive to that. And also agreeing those kind of healthy boundaries of what can and can't be done. And I've included in this a screenshot of one thing that they did, which is I'll look to kind of upload onto the resources library. So initially, when they got together as a partnership, it's not just about, you know, the lead partner working with the other partners. They were really keen to connect everyone together. So they ran a partners organisation bingo event, in which the lead partners led on. So, you know, it was the format was, you know, each group, they kind of wrote a descriptor for each of the group, something that made them quite unique. And then everybody had a bingo card with all the different names of the partners on there, the partner organisations, and then they kind of went around the room and just spoke to each other to find out, you know, what they did. And it was a nice kind of opener to those introductions and nurturing those relationships. And the final case study that we spoke to was Green and Healthy Frome. So they're a community-led partnership that support the local community to live in a way that is good for the health and the health of the environment as well. And we really kind of emphasise the community-led here when I spoke to them. And it's made up of 3 core partners, so Adventure Frome, the local medical practice and the town council. So it's really focused on health, and they really use health as the kind of lens for looking at climate change. So they think about the health of ourselves as individuals, the health of the community. So that's, you know, the physical, social and mental health, but also how that connects to the planet, of the health of the planet as well, and how these two things are really firmly connected. So if we want to improve one, then we improve the other, and vice versa. So they connect people to each other. So they've got a social prescribing platform. So that's through the medical practice. So that provides a holistic approach to enhancing the health and well-being care. So it links the medical practice patients to a wider population of non-medical resources that are available. So connecting people to what is available to them on their doorstep that they maybe wouldn't have known about otherwise. And so, yeah, as I said, it really looks at kind of that health lens when thinking about the community and the planet. And they do this by consistently evaluating behavioural change. So they use a kind of external person. Sorry, I think they're embedded within the team, sorry, but they do tap into an external resource to make sure that their methods and their ethics are all in check. And this constant evaluation is a core part of what they do and what makes what they do work so well and so meaningful, and really potentially providing a model for what a future kind of community ecosystem could look like, all working together. Part of their outputs, that they've got a kind of wide range of toolkits that they've put together, which really kind of look at individual topics. And one of the things that I spoke to Sue Parma, who I spoke to, who's the project manager there, was around the storytelling and the value of storytelling and the importance of that. So I do encourage you to have a look at those resources as well. So I just wanted to, instead of kind of drawing on the key successes of each of the partners, I think, you know, it's important to kind of look at those kind of trends and those themes and that common thread that's going through. So instead of picking out those individual things, I've just looked to kind of collate this. So what are the key successes that we've learned through talking through to these case study organisations around partnerships? So building this and developing this kind of collective sense of consciousness, collectively problem solving and learning together, and also again kind of developing that shared ownership as a key component of partnership. Increasing capacity, so identifying those gaps, as I mentioned, of who they're maybe not reaching, and who's making sure that, you know, that although individual identity is retained within each partner, kind of absorbing that and making sure that each individual partners are supported in delivering what they do, and linking that to climate as well, which is really important. And then increasing the capacity within the projects and the communities and then counties. So again, looking at these case studies as models for what could be in the future, a county-wide model, and how we can look to partnership to inform that. And then looking at the bigger picture. So a key thing being, a key kind of characteristic of each of these partnerships being creating that roadmap, but, you know, returning to that sphere of control and sphere of influence as well, just thinking about those areas that you can influence and break, you know, you have an overall roadmap, but you can break things down and focus on one or two key topics at once. So, you know, to ensure that we don't become overwhelmed. And then again, being proactive and embedding that into the way that partnership is delivered. And then, of course, most importantly, linking the social and environmental justice together through health and food poverty. And so what can we learn from these case studies? So partnership has relationship at its core, is the most kind of important thing that I've learned through talking to these case studies. So in the signpost, you know, you'll find a list of kind of do's and don'ts on there, but it's looking to kind of draw from them, again, identify those themes across the partnerships. So some key learning, so to co-create that structure and governance plan. You know, everyone I spoke to, interestingly, was a project manager, but their approach was very co-creative and thinking about, you know, listening to those individual voices and making sure that those individual needs are certainly addressed. Good planning, but, you know, good planning can probably only take us so far. So those two things kind of feed in together, but governance was something that was really key. Making sure that you've got a governance structure in place, and that there's representatives from each partners involved in those regular catch-ups. So the second kind of point key learning being to think big. So again, kind of creating that roadmap and always returning to that shared goal together, and using those that time that you put aside to meet as partners on a regular basis to really return to that, as well as kind of sharing the success stories as they happen. The third point, just to be curious, so to make time to kind of take a step back and identify patterns where things maybe have worked or haven't, and really look to kind of embed those good things that have happened in those success stories into the model. And just to kind of step back and just embrace the messiness. You know, we're all people, we all care about what we're doing here, and, you know, we're human at the end of the day. So, you know, sometimes things aren't going to go to plan, but, you know, there is always learning to be made along the way. The fourth point is to just be realistic. So again, kind of retaining that humanness. I mean, we're not robots. We're here to learn and to adapt as we move through and capture that learning. And then also just to allow for that flexibility. And the fifth point, you know, being the kind of the nucleus of this, I think, is to invest in those relationships. Be consistent with what you're delivering, turn up. But again, you know, when people can't turn up, be human about that, you know, and learn to understand why that might be. And if there's a capacity or resource issue, you know, explore that together. Really listen and observe what others are doing within the partnership, and to hear, you know, again, those kind of pinch points and identify those to fundamentally support each other. So yeah, and that kind of concludes the presentation. You will have access to this and all the other Signpost resources through the Linktree landing page, which you can access through Slack. And the Signpost has also been uploaded onto there as well.